Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
A grandson asked his grandpa, after 65 years, you still call Grandma darling, beautiful, and honey? What's the secret? And the grandpa looked at his grandson and said, I forgot her name 5 years ago, and I'm scared to ask her. Morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, proudly with God Bless America. Followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance on a Monday. Good morning, good morning. And a good morning to you and yours. I'm Zeb Bell, and welcome to Zeb at the Ranch on a Monday. And this is already April 29th, the last Monday of this month. And we're brought to you, of course, by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations, serving you with a great big spring tire sale going on right now. Also, we'd like to thank many of our great advertisers on Zeb at the Ranch, one being Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's start off right with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The world-famous Lorna Doone. Thank you so much. God bless you for calling in. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Have an awesome day.
I will. Thank you. I love that lady. She is something special. Hey, don't forget, time for the weather quickly by K&R Rental. Hello, Roger and the crew. Over at K&R Rental, they turned the key in the lock at 7 o'clock this morning to better serve you. And, of course, with all the rental of your tools and equipment, you need to finish any project. And if you're not sure what you need, you might be like me. I'm not really too astute on tools and equipment and everything I need to do certain jobs. I ask. I've got to. Call them, 678-3122. That number again, 678-3122. Right there on the Burley Paul Highway, K&R Rental. Right now, here's the weather.
Some cooler temperatures for the beginning of the week, but we will be warming up as we get more towards the weekend. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Partly sunny skies for today. Definitely going to be cooler, slightly breezy as well. Expecting a high of 57 tonight, low of 32. That is going to put us in a freeze warning, especially if you planted your tender vegetables. You might want to make sure that those are covered up for tomorrow. Looks like partly sunny skies, only a high of 52. Again, a freeze warning going to be in effect for tomorrow night with a low of 31. By Wednesday, mostly sunny skies, high of 57. Warming up to 65 by Thursday and mid-70s as we get towards the weekend. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina. I appreciate it. She does a wonderful job and occasionally has old Scotty fill in. They are very much appreciated. Thank you. Weather brought to you by K&R Rental, 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn. As I said, easy to find on the Burley Paul Highway. And the number to call for questions, 678-3122. K&R Rental. We have a really good shoe, like Ed Sullivan Franklin used to say years ago. Richard Manning at 9:06. Dan Wass, he is a expert on the Second Amendment and what the Democrats are trying to do to take our guns away, will be on at 9:30. Then we've got Pacific legal attorney Daniel Ortner on at 10:06, talking about the city of San Antonio denied Chick-fil-A to come on in. This is ridiculous. And then, of course, finding out about gardening at 10:30 with Vicky. So we got a really good show. Daryl's Cleaners, I want to say thank you for all you do. It's no kidding. I had this happen to me just last week. We went over and picked up my clothes from Daryl's Cleaners, and everything was hung in the closet, and I looked at all my shirts, and I said, whoa, I don't think this is my shirt. Well, it was. I forgot. They made it look so brand spanking new that, holy buckets, I thought I'd purchased a brand new shirt. Well, thank you for the job they do, taking all my rumply crumplies and making them look, like I said, brand spanking new. Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. You stop in and see those really good folks today. One other quick note, and then we'll get started on our call sheet here this morning. I want to say thank you to Ramsey Heating and Electric, and they're located at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. They get there early in the morning, too, at 7:30, and they stay open till 5, Monday through Friday, for all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. Over 6 decades in business. Now, just think about that. Over 6 decades in business, serving you with the best of all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs, and the best of people at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Really good folks. All right, let's start off with some really good calls on a Monday morning. Zeb at the Ranch, and this is so sad and so sick and so perverted. Another church shooting, this time in California. I know the area of Poway where the shooting took place at a Jewish synagogue. 1 dead, others wounded, and off-duty officers subdued the shooter. I just wonder how many churches and pastors talked about this yesterday on Sunday. I wonder, did yours? Did they talk about church shootings? Did they talk about how we seem to be in a religious holy war? Did we talk about perhaps the safety of churches and what they're going to do to make sure that they have even somewhat limited security while you're in worshiping? Or, from the pulpit, did you hear crickets? Well, I can speak of my church. Crickets. Nothing was said about this. These are issues that I'm talking about that churches need to become aware of and start speaking out on. There can't be any more of this running to hide and not addressing the issues that are going on in our society and our community today. It's absolutely shameful that these issues are not being talked about in sermons. They are the community leaders, regardless of the denomination. I don't care if it's Presbyterians or Methodists or Lutherans. I don't care what denomination. They all should be talking, preaching, and talking about issues that we as Christians can maybe help make the community better. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. There's been a holy war of Islam against Christianity and Jew for centuries. I mean, if we go back, the Crusades were to bring back the Christian lands that the Muslim, Islamic people had slaughtered. Hundreds of thousands of Christians to take those lands. Mm-hmm. And, of course, Obama said, this was horrible that the Christians would want to be doing this. Well, of course, he was one of them. But, yeah, there's a holy war going on. It's been going on. And even, this a synagogue where there was a murder, and fortunately the gun jammed, or there would have been numerous more killed and injured in there. But that was buried in the paper. If that had been a mosque, it would have been on the front page.
Yeah, stop right there. Stop. Whoa. Adrian, right there. You made a point. I got to address it. Your point is well taken. And I think it's absolutely a heinous crime that the newspapers and the news media in general have not really come forward with this story, and like what happened in other areas with Christians being shot and killed. Huge amounts of Christians, over 200 killed in Africa, and many, many more. I mean, there's like thousands that have died. 23,000 Christians have been killed in the last few years, and you hear crickets. Nothing. And I'm going to tell you right now that if pastors shirk their duty, they should not be up at the pulpit wearing the robe of their church because they are not doing their job. I have taken a lot of heat over this the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to continue taking heat because some of these blah, blah, vanilla sermons aren't getting the job done.
Well, it's really sad that Christians, we turn the other cheek, but I can tell you, when you're dealing with people with a theocracy, and Islam is a theocracy to conquer the world.
That's right.
And until people realize, they hide behind this religious facade, and so they yes, they're a religion, but their goal is to kill everybody. I mean, if you read the Quran or follow the Quran, they're commanded to kill us infidels that don't convert to their perverted way of supposedly worship.
It's a purging. It's a purging. Wait a minute, Adrian. Again, please, let me in. It's a purging. It's a killing. It's a dispensing of what they term a problem, and they want to eradicate it. I am absolutely not going to weaken on this, and I'm going to keep my hammer down for these churches to start preaching. Every church, after these disgusting shootings and killings, they should be very aware of what their security is. I don't care if it's in this area, if it's in Texas, if it's in Montana. Now you've got to be wary as to where you go and congregate as Christians, because you never know who's going to walk in the door. We've got to be aware of what's going on.
Well, that's for sure. There's no doubt about that, Zebin. But, we bring all these people in here. You talk about genocide. I think Syria, not many years ago, had over 1,200,000 Christians. I think there's not even 250,000 left. So over a million Christians have been killed. And what reporting has there been on that?
Yeah, I know.
And the Notre Dame thing, I'm sorry, but they said it was an accident while they're still pouring water on the flames.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the kind of reporting that we're getting. They're covering up for these killers, and we're letting them get away with it. And it's locally here as well as nationally.
I agree with you as far as the locally here. I mean, the Times News and their op-ed or their editorial board, boy, I tell you what, I wish, and I want a short answer, Adrian. Please don't elaborate on this too much. But one of my complaints is if you're going to write an op-ed in the paper, or if you're going to have anything that's going to denigrate or set apart people in the community, at least sign the name as to who the op-ed editorial writer was.
Well, it would certainly be nice. I can guarantee you my experience in writing letters to the editor there, it has to be politically correct. They will not allow anything against man-caused global warming.
Yeah.
I can't mention anything about United Nations Agenda 21, which the poster child, of course, is global warming, fraud, hoax. That's what it is. Chicago got the latest 2.5 inches of snow on record. Chicago's been around a long time.
Well, I can interrupt you right there and tell you that my Aunt Miriam back in Wisconsin called the other day, sent me a picture as she was confined to her home because of a blizzard condition that hit her on Friday. Adrian, I got to run. You're 100% right. Thank you so much.
You bet. Well, we need to wake up and realize these people are trying to destroy our country. Our media is not our friend. They're our enemy, and we better wake up to that fact. And Islam is our enemy, and we better wake up to that fact.
I agree. Thank you very much for your call, as always. I'm not going to weaken on this, folks. There's a lot of things that we have to change. Don't forget Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley, America's Diner. Oh, I'm telling you, Deanne and I have a copy of their new menu, and some of the choices are just unbelievable. They've got the crepes, the strawberry vanilla crepes. I had those the other day. Knock your socks off. They are delicious. How about that with bacon or hash browns and sausage? Oh, it's good eating all the time, anytime at Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley, and they've got another location at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Boy, I'm drooling. Those were so good. Anyhow, I also want to remind you, too, I'm going to start back up over at Burley Physical Therapy again this week. Yes, sirree, Bobby. I've called him, and I said, make me an appointment. I'm coming in. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. If you're a aching and a painin', hey, they can help you get back to being you. All you need to do is write the number down and call them. Make an appointment at 678-1191. Yep, 678-1191. All the exercises and the use of that hydrotherapy pool, the only one of its kind in the area, you stop in or give them a call today at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Really good folks. Hold on, caller. I'll be right there. I've got to tell everybody about our dear friends, Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox. They've teamed up for your home comfort systems. If you're in the market for a new home comfort system, don't forget they're offering up to $1,700 in rebates on a new system. Find out all about it. Call Ramsey Heating and Electric at 678-0459 or visit them online at ramseysonline.com. Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. You know, you brought up something that I always literally detest, and that is when people want to complain, they won't admit who they are. And a good example of that is the weekly mailer.
Oh, yeah.
Years ago, when I was in business, I went to Jay Leckenstorfer, who is a friend of mine, and I said, Jay, if you're not going to have these people sign their complaints, then I will no longer advertise with you. I did not ever advertise with him again because he will not adhere to that.
Well, there's just absolutely no room in our society to give a forum for somebody that just wants to use it as an attack ad or attack letter against someone, and this person can say what they want, they can denigrate what they want to say against the other person or party, they can do anything. It's happened to me. I also had the same response to that paper and that person you're talking about, because it's absolutely ludicrous to give a forum to people to complain and basically demean people without knowing who they are. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong.
It's like taking a pillow, a feather pillow, and taking it out in the wind and open it up and just let the feathers fly. And then try to gather them back up.
It's slanderous and libelous. Anything you want to use as words, because it creates nothing more than hatred. They can come out now. I could say something like Keith caught him this, Keith caught him that, and you don't know who did it, and you haven't got any right at all of standing up and saying, "Wait a minute, I'll call this person out. Let's sit down and talk about it, and if need me, we'll go to court." You don't know who did it, and that's shameful.
I'll tell you what is really a disgrace is Facebook. You know, when, say, someone has a problem and they get on there and they just hit you back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah.
So it becomes true. and then it really gets out of hand.
Yeah, but Keith, wouldn't you agree with me?
Not.
Wouldn't you agree with me, and I mean this, and some people might say this is a very calloused remark, maybe it is, but we are living in a society today that's gutless. Gutless. They're cowards. And they're like little rats and moles that come out of their holes at night or out from underneath their rock, and they attack, and nobody knows who they are or really what they stand for because they're anonymous. And that, to me, is a gutless society.
Well, it's kind of like, remember back in the old days in the schoolyard when somebody would instigate a fight, and they would get these two guys just really, really stirred up, and they were fist fighting, and this person that stirred it up is standing there just watching the flame.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Keith, I couldn't agree with you more, and it's one of the things that I preached about on this program for a long time. You got a gripe with me, you can call me. But the things that bother me so much, and I've talked to you and Nancy about it privately, is that when people will send me anonymous emails or they'll make anonymous phone calls after the program's over, what gutless little worms they are.
Anyone that makes the threat to you and does not sign their name is a coward.
Absolutely. I have no inhibitions about calling them what they really are, gutless cowards. Keith, appreciate your call. Well, you really got my blood pressure going, buddy. Thank you.
Well, I intended to.
Okay.
But I didn't want to argue, though.
Well,
I'm in a very soothing mood.
Well, you stay soothing. I'll take care of the arguing. God bless you. Have a good day. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Hey, don't forget our friends at Rain for Rent. It's irrigation season, and I'm telling you, this is a number you don't want to forget. You should have it written right there on the dash of your pickup, boys. 438-5065. That number again, 438-5065. Rain for Rent. At 134 South, 600 West DePaul, with Jake and his entire very efficient, dedicated sales and service staff serving you at Rain for Rent. They're a Reinke Diamond dealer, and also they've got all the telemetry annex boxes for any pivot, and you can set the whole thing up through your cell phone to save you a lot of worry and hassle. Check it out at Rain for Rent, 438-5065. Yep, great folks at Rain for Rent. Also, I want to say a big shout out to Ark Animal Hospital. If you're going to have pets and livestock, well, then it's pretty obvious. You got to take care of them to make sure they stay healthy. And that's why I urge you to get a hold of Dr. Bill and the crew over at Ark Animal Hospital at 750 21st Street near Connection Credit Union in Heyburn. It's a real responsibility to have pets and livestock. And right now it's springtime. Don't forget to spay and neuter your cats and dogs, and don't forget all the deworming and just all kinds of things you need to be aware of. And if you have any questions or concerns, call Ark Animal Hospital in Heyburn, 678-1177, where they have the warm hearts for the cold noses. I'm going to give away some cookies right now, and the question today, I thought it was pretty easy, but then, well, we'll see. We'll see. All right? I'm going to give away a dozen cookies to Sophie's Chatterbox. And if you come up with the right answer, you're going to be the cookie winner. And think about this one, okay? And then call me at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Sophie's Chatterbox, the best of bakery, the best of a restaurant at 530 F E Street in Rupert. Don't forget, Sophie's Chatterbox on the square. Here's the question. In the John Wayne movie, The Shootist, what two things did John Wayne give away before he died in a shootout? In the movie, The Shootist, with John Wayne, what two things did he give away before he died in a shootout? I want to see if you remember that. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While I'm waiting for your phone call, come on, quickly, give me a call. I want to see how sharp my audience is this morning. What two things did John Wayne give away before he died in a shootout in that movie? While I'm waiting for your call, Barry Equipment and Rental. I'll be right there, caller. Stand by. Barry Equipment and Rental, sales, service, and parts. 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, and the Nampa location for anything and everything you need to lift, dig, push, and carry. They've got everything from all the Doosan loaders, all the Walker lawnmowers. They've got all the Bobcats. They've got it all. Not sure how to run them? Hey, they got a big sandbox right out behind. You check it out. Barry Equipment and Rental in Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa, the best. Barry Equipment and Rental. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. What's the answer to my question?
I believe it's he give away his pillow, or his seat pillow, and his horse.
Who is this? What's your name?
Is that right?
What's your name?
Walter Bradshaw.
Walter Bradshaw, you are one sharp cookie. You're 100% right. And speaking of sharp cookies, you just won the cookies. And congratulations. Now, did you have to look that up, or did you remember that?
I remember it. I've seen the movie 4 or 5 times.
I've seen the movie about 30 times. Honestly, I thought it might be a little tougher and people would forget about the pillow that he gave to the conductor on the, not taxi service, but the old, what am I trying to say, not the train service. What did they call those things back in those days?
I don't remember, but his horse's name was Dollar.
Yep. And he gave Dollar away to the young man to take care of him, and then on his way down to the old shootout that took his life, he gave the pillow away. Walter Bradshaw, God bless you, man. You're a cookie winner this morning.
Thank you.
All right, call him over there at Sophie's and tell him when you're coming in. Great job, great job. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. All of a sudden, it's like they woke up from a long, long nap. All of a sudden, news networks are suddenly waking up to the border crisis. Why, I can't believe it. 60 Minutes sent film crews down there to film and talk about the border crisis. Why, even New York Times liberal lefty to the extreme, Paul Krugman, is writing about the border crisis. Why, this is amazing. Why, when you think about it, they even now are admitting that President Trump and the administration was right. Holy cow. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
I just want to answer one thing for you, and that was the trolley that they wrote.
The trolley. I couldn't think of that word to save my bacon. I'm sitting here racking my brain. Did you ever have that happen to you where you're thinking about one word or something and you can't remember it? Trolley. I just wrote it down so I won't forget it in the future. Thank you.
The rest of the word goes to heck until you find out.
Oh, it's driving me nuts. Thank you.
Let you know, but speaking of trolleys, that was horse drawn, and
Yep.
then they become electric,
Yep.
especially in San Francisco.
Yep.
Very, very popular.
I really do appreciate. Go ahead. We can't talk over each other, Keith. If you're going to start and keep going. Don't quit and start up again. Go ahead.
Okay, but on this deal you were talking about that I kind of interrupted you on, the press and the radio stations and everything in these countries in South America are encouraging people to come, and they're telling them exactly how to do it.
Well, I know it. Really, and this is not a stretch. We are taking countries' populations. It's not just, a caravan of maybe 100 here, 100 there. No, we're taking the country's populations, and they're coming in here, and all of a sudden we're responsible for these people. Here, I want to throw something at you real fast, my dear friend, and respond to this and give me a short answer. Did you know that 40% of our Border Patrol is not able to do their job? You want to know why? Because right now they're being forced to serve food, and change baby diapers. That's not what they were hired for, Keith.
That's absolutely right, and I picked up on that also. You can't, and it's important to talk to these people that are coming in, and you got to stop and change a baby's diaper.
This is unbelievable.
It's very human of you, but it's not letting them do their job.
No, and they're being overrun, and I say to President Trump, I don't care if it's 15,000 more or 25,000 more, arm the military, put them in full battle fatigues, and let them be on the military as a deterrent. This has got to stop. It's gone way too long. Keith, thank you very much for your call. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Don't forget Dino Septic Service. Oh, my goodness sakes. Doing the job that you and I don't want to do. Oh, you don't want to be out there pumping a septic tank. My grandmother used to say. You don't want to be out there with sewer and sink drain lines to clean, and you don't want to have the liquid waste removal. No. Call them, Dino Septic Service, and they show up at your place with a smile on their face. Fast, fair, friendly service with a big truck that says smells cargo on the way. Don't forget to call them at 436-6526 or in Burley, 678-1638. Dino Septic Service, absolutely the best serving you. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Imagine, honestly, our Border Patrol and those that work on the border have been relegated because of the total influx and the total just mass numbers of families with little children, and all claiming asylum, which is not right at all, and 90% can't even come close to qualifying for asylum, political asylum. But now they're being relegated to having their superiors say, hey, we're being forced into telling you this, we don't like this, but now you have to deliver and serve food to these illegals. And if the babies need diapers changed, you have to do. That's not what they're hired for. They're hired to protect us. Let me say that again so it soaks in. They are hired to protect us, not foreign illegal aliens trying to come through, beat the system, and step into this country and say, hey, I'm here, feed me, clothe me, house me, I'm your new neighbor. 40% are not able to do their job now. This is absolutely unbelievable. Instead of defending our border, they've turned into waiters and waitresses. This should really, really bother you. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Oh, this ought to just frost your cookies. Caller, I'll be right there. I just heard this morning that Democratic nominee hopeful for the Democrats, Pete Buttigieg, the gay guy that, oh, brother, it's a mess. He's meeting with Al Sharpton today. That ought to be a summit meeting of the minds, I'll tell you. Hold on, caller, I'm a-coming. Don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric teamed up with Lennox for their home comfort systems, and they're offering up to $1,700 in rebates on a new home comfort system. Find out about it today. Call Ramsey Heating and Electric at 678-0459 or visit them online at ramseysonline.com. Terms and conditions apply. See dealer for details at Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Ben. Do you suppose those two are getting ready to to run for president and vice president of the United States.
Al Sharpton and Pete Buttigieg? Oh, don't do this to me, Chris. I mean, I got enough bad things to worry about with not thinking about them as president and vice president. Oh, my goodness, what a disdainful thought.
Well, you know what? Weirder things have happened in this United States of America recently.
Every day.
Don't be surprised.
Every day.
You know what? This should start waking up the very all of the people in our country who are serious about our country, and we better get off our rear ends and get to work.
When you say get off the rear ends, and you know, it's so true what you just said, we're looking at this, we being conservatives, we being Republicans or whatever. I mean, I do not want Joe Biden to even think about getting into the comfortable leather chair in the Oval Office. Nor do I want Cory Booker. Nor do I want Pete Buttigieg. Nor do I want Julian Castro. The list goes on and on. There's 20 of these people. Some people like Marianne Williamson. Oh, I'm sure you haven't hardly heard of her. She's now thrown her hat into the ring to be a Democratic possible nominee, and she's best known for being a best-selling author and a spiritual leader. Well, if she's a spiritual leader, she's got a job to do with the rest of her fellow Democrats.
Well, and it just seems like the Democrats just cannot dig low enough to come up with these amazing candidates for the presidency of the United States. Let us Republicans stay on track and give them nothing but the best, and we'll survive. But how do you open up their brains enough to get them to use them?
You know, it's just like John Hickenlooper the other day. You know, this guy from Colorado. I remember vividly Frosty Woldridge being on the program many, many times talking about how absolutely dumb Hickenlooper is, and not very sound of mind or body. And he got up on the stage the other night, and he couldn't remember what the initials GDP stood for when he was talking about our economy. He had to stop and go, well, I forgot what that meant. I'm not sure if I can remember those initials. You can't make stupid mistakes like that when you're running for president.
Well, I think maybe his run may be coming to a close, because even Coloradoans want him to know what GDP stands for.
Yeah, you know, but take a look at if you get a chance, please do yourself a favor and go get a listing of all the Democrats that are running for that nomination. People like Wayne Messam, that served at Miramar, Florida as their mayor. You probably haven't heard a lot about him. He's absolutely a guy that believes in all the reparations going to blacks and everything. And then you've got people like Tim Ryan, and you've got people like Andrew Yang, and people like John Delaney, people you haven't even hardly heard for or from that are running for the presidency. This is a really interesting field of people that are not qualified.
Well, thank goodness they're walking all over each other, and nobody can get into the highlight because they're all trying to get there. And maybe that's a blessing, because I think that, you know, we just need to center on getting our candidate elected and give our candidate plenty of information so that they can go after these.
Amen. Amen. Chris, to go along with what you just said, no election is a slam dunk. Nothing is a absolute in the pot, going to be a solidified deal. We've got to make sure we stand up and make our voices and our votes heard and counted. Thank you so much for your call. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you. I tell you what, I was looking at this list, honestly, of all these people, like Seth Moulton. Okay, the Massachusetts congressman, he was an Iraq War veteran, and his biggest strength, they say, is military and congressional experience. Oh, yeah? 40 years of age, Seth Moulton. What about John Delaney? Former congressman from Maryland. Biggest strength, he rolled out a rural-focused policy that included proposals to strengthen family, farmers, and rural infrastructure. Have you heard anything about that? Has he tried to make it a national program or anything, or talk about it? No. Going back to Marianne Williamson, her biggest strength is outsider who could draw interest from voters who are fans of her books. Oh, brother, I'd never heard of her books. Ay, my grandmother used to say. It's time for the weather. I gotta quit laughing. Time for the weather brought to you by some really, really good people, and that's Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, and they're located right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room. The best for your hearing health. Dr. Christine Pickup, Dr. Courtney Mitchell, Dr. Shane Hunsaker. They know, they care, and they can help you with your hearing health. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Caller, I'll be there right after the weather, and here's Gina.
Some cooler temperatures for the beginning of the week, but we will be warming up as we get more towards the weekend. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Partly sunny skies for today. Definitely going to be cooler, slightly breezy as well. Expecting a high of 57 tonight, low of 32. That is going to put us in a freeze warning, especially if you planted your tender vegetables. You might want to make sure that those are covered up for tomorrow. Looks like partly sunny skies, only a high of 52. Again, a freeze warning going to be in effect for tomorrow night with a low of 31. By Wednesday, mostly sunny skies, high of 57. Warming up to 65 by Thursday and mid-70s as we get towards the weekend. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Range.
Thank you, Gina. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. They want you to hear everything from the birds a chirping this spring all the way to the water running down the canals, you name it. Oh, don't forget, they're the best for your hearing health. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, and the number 312-0957. Caller, thank you for your patience. Good morning. You're on the air.
Oh, you're sure welcome. You know, I've said this before, and I'm saying it again. If you're going to run for an office, well, let's just take a job, for instance. If you got a job working for somebody, and then you want to get a better job and you're working on that, you're not being fair to your employer.
Yeah.
Okay, this stupid mayor in South Bend, Indiana, a mayor, the job of a mayor is a daily job. I think. I don't think you can go off 2 or 3 weeks at a time. So how the hell is he going to take care of all this stuff that's going on there?
Well, you know, strong words from you, my friend, but I'll tell you, I agree with you 100%. I don't think Buttigieg and many of these others, I'm going to throw some names out. Pete Buttigieg, Eric Swalwell, let's pick out Kamala Harris or Julian Castro, whatever the case might be. I think these are going to be also-rans. I think these are going to be bugs on the windshield. I don't think they're ever going to come to the forefront. And if you really want to know the truth, Keith, I think, and I'm going to make a prediction here, I agree with some of the other experts politically that have said this over the last couple of days. I think even though Joe Biden has thrown his hat into the ring, I think somebody's going to kick it back out of the ring. I don't think after July 4th, mark my words, that he will be in the lead for the Democratic hopefuls. I think he's going to start slipping to the curb.
I think you're right. And you and I had this one conversation where we talked about if he did run, that this deal with China will come up, or Russia.
Yeah.
And you and I agreed, but you said, I hope it's further down the line after he admits to it, or, you know.
No, the reason I said that, Keith, wait a minute. The reason I said I hope it's down the line further time away, I really do. The American public has a lot of opportunity to forgive and forget. And I think if somebody is showing, and in this case it may be Biden, that they have a potential chance at winning the nomination, I say hold your gunpowder, keep it dry until it gets close, house and then open it up and let people hear and see what's really going on behind the scenes, and you can back it up. If you can't back it up, you better not release it. But if it's honest and it's a true appraisal of what this man did and what he was involved in, let him have it.
You're right on, and that's exactly what I was saying, only I just wasn't explaining it.
No, you did, and I appreciate it, because I just think that there's a whole bunch of holes in all of these Democrat screen doors, and I think they need to be explored and shown to the public. Keith, thank you for your call again. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You bet. Bye.
Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I got to tell you this story really, really fast. I absolutely was shocked about Dr. Jordan Peterson. And he was asked to go and speak at Cambridge University over in England. And they made all the, the preparation to have him there, the signed contracts for his speaking fee and everything. And then all of a sudden, Cambridge University, a very prestigious university, canceled and said, no, don't come, we don't want you. Why? Because they and other schools have said he is too politically incorrect. Why is he politically incorrect? Because he believes in people getting up and pulling themselves by their own bootstraps to be successful. He believes that people should be responsible for themselves. He believes that with hard work you can accomplish your goals, and the schools like Cambridge University are saying, this man's too radical. Why, we can't have him up there telling people that they have to go to work for a living to try to be successful. What's the matter with this? And they've canceled him out. They said with his speeches on personal responsibility, oh my goodness, why, that's going to make people too nervous and it causes them to be too fearful. This is a glaring example of how the Bible told us that right will become wrong, wrong will become right. This is idiocy. Here's a guy that absolutely is standing up and telling everybody you can do anything you want to in this world if you'll just have the personal responsibility to go out and make sure that you take care of your own education, and you can go out and be what you want to be, but that's too radical. And they're canceling this man from speaking. Caller, quickly, I've got 2 minutes. Go ahead.
For lunch at the seniors today, we're having stir-fry, oriental vegetables, and egg roll. Only $5.
Okay. And what about dessert?
What?
What about dessert?
Egg roll.
Oh, an egg roll is dessert?
Well, that's what I got. Just come and see. It'll be yummy, whatever.
All right. I'll tell you what, that's the first time I've ever heard of a yummy egg roll, but by golly, we'll send them over to the senior center on Overland. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
All right, thank you. Yummy egg roll as dessert. Have to work on that one for a little bit. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to give a great big shout out and thank you to our Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. They're having a great big spring tire sale right now. You can save money and get the tires you need for your vehicle, your car, pickup, SUV, horse trailers, boat trailers, whatever. All the tread designs, all the sizes. Right now, hey, check it out. Big spring tire sale at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Don't forget the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, all of this and more with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Yep, the best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Caller, 1 minute. Go, please.
Well, I know this is not on your subject, but you're going to have guests for the rest of the day, and I wanted to get this in. Last week I was reading in the Times News, which I do not take. I see it laying around, and I pick it up, and I take it home and read it. And on the front page it shows a dam, Lower Salmon Falls, and it talks about Mike Simpson and how he wants to see salmon back in Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
This is what he said. You cannot address the salmon issue without addressing dams. He said you cannot address the salmon issue without addressing the challenges that we face. And he believes in climate change. This is Mr. Mike Simpson. The good people of Idaho, just go in and re-elect this, whatever the hell he is. I'm telling you, man, this guy has got to go.
I have used your terminology for a long time. He's got to go. I am not a fan of Mike Simpson. I know a lot of people are going, oh, did you hear what he said? Well, that's the way I feel. Mike has shirked his duty on trying to let the constituency know what's going on, and then he's now coming back into the newspaper now to try to make himself more obvious and more relative. Randy, I got to run, but I do appreciate your call. Call earlier next time. Well done. Thank you. Thank you. We've got to take a little break, and then we come back with Richard Manning and Dan Wass, two outstanding guests this next hour. Don't you miss it. Zeb at the Ranch. We'll be right back in about 7 minutes. Wheels, it's all yours. Good morning on a good-looking Monday out there so far. Sunny skies, the sun is out there. Oh, I just tell you, it's wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. I've got spring fever. Zeb at the Ranch, and of course, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with a great big spring tire sale going on right now. And along with some of our great advertisers, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, Old Wheels is perched on the button. This word for Western Waste.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is landing ahead, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Yeah, I guess I'm committed. Deanna and I were talking yesterday. We've got to make the commitment to call Western Waste and say, bring a dumpster. We're going to clean things out. I mean, the garage, the basement, my office. Better be a big dumpster. They've got them in various sizes. They'll drop it off. You fill it up. They'll come and get it. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call them at 734-6969. Western Waste Services. Want to also remind you, like we've been saying, Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox Home Comfort Systems, and they're offering up to $1,700 in rebates on a new system. All you gotta do is call them at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 678-0459. Don't forget, terms and conditions apply. See dealer for details. Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox. And real fast, before we go to our next guest, I want to remind you also about Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert with Joel Heward, our friend, his family, his staff, serving you and your family. When there's the passing of a loved one, they take the solemn responsibility to provide the families they serve with the best possible support and comfort, and always upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Please call them today at 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary in Rupert, and Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. You know, I say this every week, and it's oh so true, that I put a lot of faith and trust into my callers that call in and are part of my program on a weekly basis. And this man has been so reliable and gives us a straight shooter's vantage point of what's going on in the news. And we say good morning to this next gentleman that is the president for Americans for a Limited Government. Well, I messed up that title. Good morning, Richard Manning. How are you?
I'm doing great, Zev. I think you're probably still trying to get over the plane stuck in the tree story. I don't think I've ever heard that before. That is the most amazing story I've ever heard. An actual plane crashed into a tree and stuck in a tree.
Yeah, I got a picture of it right here. I got a picture of it right here in front of me, as a matter of fact. It's a yellow airplane. Looks like a Cessna or a Cherokee, perhaps Cherokee 180, whatever the case might be. And I think I got the problem solved. I mean, I don't understand, and I'm not trying to be facetious when I say this, but why don't they take a helicopter, if it has the weight restrictions and everything, that it could handle it, and literally from the belly of the helicopter put down a cable noose and try to rope it, in some sense of the word, and tighten up the...
You would be wanting to rope it. That makes sense. Or, you give a rodeo guy a problem, and he solves it with a rope.
It's all done.
It makes sense.
It's all done. Planes on the ground. Here we go. I got to ask you a question here this morning, because you're close to these people and much more knowledgeable than I. But I said a couple of weeks ago on my program that as far as future investigations with Swalwell and all these other Democrats, little Jerry Nadler and the rest of them, if I were subpoenaed to go testify to their little hearings to redo this whole thing and rake up the muck, I would sit there and just say, I plead the fifth. I wouldn't say any more. I wouldn't do anything. This is a complete fiasco and waste of time. How would you respond to what I just said?
Well, I think that yes, it is a complete fiasco and a waste of time. And but if you say I plead the fifth, the assumption on television is that you're guilty. So it gets, it's a great strategy for the FBI in a closed meeting with the FBI, but in an open hearing, it makes you look like you're avoiding things. But what I would do is I'd have my attorney there, and I would answer them and say, well, I just answer them based on data that's already out there. And I just say, okay, well, that was answered here, and that was answered here, and that was answered here. And, the Mueller report says this. And I basically read them back the Mueller report and give them and make it so boring that that television sets across America are turned away from C-SPAN. And C-SPAN calls the Democrats, please don't do that to us again. We're not going to cover it because we're not getting viewers. So I would bore them to death by being meticulous in my detail and making certain that I did nothing which caused any clash whatsoever. Because the objective these guys have is to be seen as being arch enemies of the administration, and and that's their objective. Their objective is to be YouTube heroes, and you just have to deny them that.
Rick, you are very astute as to these people, their personalities, etc. But when you look at little Jerry Nadler and Swalwell and Adam Schiff and all these people, this is muckraking at its worst. And really, what are they going to try to prove other than what the Mueller report already came out? There was no collusion. There was no evidence against Donald Trump. This is a waste of taxpayers' time. Is this really what they're going to hang their hat on for all 20 candidates going into the 2020 election?
Sure hope so. Let's face it, these guys they were elected to the House in a majority based on a fraudulent investigation from the outset. They're all in terms of getting Donald Trump at all costs, and so yes, they're going to play their hand out because they don't have any other cards. Think about it. On the Senate side, the Democrats wouldn't even vote for their centerpiece piece of legislation, which was the Green New Deal. They wouldn't vote for their own piece of legislation. They were upset that it was actually brought up for a vote. So what are they going to do? They're trapped in their own delusion, and they have managed to. And there's a certain number of people who vote with them, who get their diminishing number, but still a few hundred who get their news from CNN, who are trapped in this delusion. And quite honestly, this is the. So they are trapped in having to deal with this. It's for what do you? I mean, their choice is they can deal with this, or they can deal with Ilhan Omar's various comments that offend everybody related to anti-Semitism and the like. They can continue to talk about Ilhan Omar. So they're trapped in their own creation here of this false narrative that there was Russian collusion, and they come to admit that it was all made up. So I'm sure they're gonna be they're gonna try to have Bill Barr get up there and talk about it and explain himself and all this, and he'll, when he goes up, he'll do a fine job of explaining it all. But the truth is, this is about nothing more than satisfying their MoveOn.org direct mail donor base, email donor base. Has nothing to do with getting to the truth. It's about trying to be, as I said, YouTube heroes, so they can distinguish themselves for their next Senate run or whatever they're trying to move up in the hierarchy of the democratically insane.
Very well put. Now, I want to ask you about a sudden epiphany of news networks like CNN, and of course shows like 60 Minutes, and of course liberal lefty writers like Paul Krugman of the New York Times. Why, all of a sudden they're having an epiphany and coming out and saying, why, there is a crisis at the border. Well, good morning, the alarm clock finally went off. What happened that these people are finally admitting we've got a problem?
Well, they're saying we've got a problem, and it really got bad once Trump became president.
Oh.
Okay, so that's their, and what they're now pivoting to is we've got a problem, and we have to deal with it comprehensively. And comprehensively means amnesty for 12 million people. So they had a deal that the president was willing to do with them last year that would have provided limited, would have taken care of the DACA recipients and dealt with and would have created, truthfully, I opposed significant pieces of it, would have created pathways to citizenship for people with DACA. But the president put a deal on the table, and they said no. The president said, I want to deal with the humanitarian crisis and put $800 million into the humanitarian crisis. And they said, no, we don't care about the humanitarian crisis because we don't want to build a wall. And they've shut down the government for 35 days over that exact point. So now they're saying, gee whiz, we're going to pivot. We want to have a comprehensive plan. And we are, at the same time, we've got Jared Kushner in the White House who's trying to negotiate a more comprehensive plan than just the wall and the humanitarian stuff they were talking about before, but not going all the way to amnesty. But so they're pivoting to try to create an environment where they can push through the Gang of Eight bill or something like that, which was defeated 4 years ago. And they're going to push through something to that extent, which would be a disaster for our immigration policy because, once again, the Democrats don't want to close our border. They don't want rational immigration policy, and the people, unfortunately, voted them into power in terms of the House of Representatives. So you're not going to get a good, comprehensive bill, no matter what Jared Kushner thinks. And it's a huge mistake for the president to negotiate on this at this point. He needs to just jam them, say we need the money to fix it, and force them to provide the money through emergency appropriations to fix it. And if they aren't willing to do that, then they own it. So the president needs to just double down on the money and say we need the money to fix the border.
Absolutely.
And, we'll do comprehensive in 2021.
Absolutely.
And that comprehensive, we'll have a discussion about what that's going to be in 2020.
Absolutely.
Because these Democrats will not allow for a rational, comprehensive immigration plan to go in place, and any negotiating with them will end up creating a hugely problematic piece of legislation that I would contend would cost the president the election. So that would be so if I were advising the president right now, if you were listening to the show, I'd say, do not listen to Jared. Comprehensive. You can't get it done with Nancy Pelosi. Go for it. Get your money. Jam them.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Very well stated. We have a caller with a quick question. Go ahead, caller. Quickly, you're on the air. Thank you.
Yes, down on the border, you've got some private militia groups who are really trying to do the right thing. And the way people have described it that don't like it, that don't want to stop illegal immigration, have called them terrible names and stuff. And it's not true, because if it was, the Border Patrol would have stated so, and they didn't. But you see, when the problem is out of control like it is, 3,000 a day, if you take 3,000 times 365 to over 1 million people, we just can't handle it. We can't do this. This cannot continue. We're losing our country. We're losing our culture. The amount of money that we spend on illegals is just all through our society it's unbelievable. We've got to stop this. I'll hang up.
Respond to the caller, please, Rick, if you would.
Oh, I agree. I agree 100%. But it's also, the fact is that people who are on the border as private citizens oftentimes are invited by the property owners who happen to be on the border and are suffering the loss of the use of their property because, they've got ranches where large swaths of the property can't be used because they're controlled by the cartels.
Yep.
It's obscene what we're allowing to occur. It isn't good for our country. Quite honestly, it's not good for the people who are coming across the border. And, and all the things that the gentleman talked about is 100% true, but it's also true that what we have are people who are being dumped off across the border, people who are being abused all the way up here, and then are just basically cast off, whether it's by being dumped into the Border Patrol's hands, and they don't have any room for them, so they're sticking them on, dropping them off at bus stations in Phoenix in large numbers, and saying, hey, you're at a bus station, go to it, with nowhere to go. People in a strange land, nowhere to go. This is the most incredibly abusive situation to the people who are both the illegal immigrants who are coming across our border illegally. It is not humane to just dump them into our society and say, fend for yourself. What the heck do you expect is going to happen?
Yeah.
Of course there's going to be, you're going to have prostitution, drugs, you're going to have all this stuff, the bad stuff that goes on. So it's bad for the people who are the illegal immigrants from a humanitarian standpoint. It's bad for our country, and quite honestly, it's bad for the countries they're leaving, which are being depopulated, and it's a disaster for those countries when you get down to it. So all in all, it's huge. It's a bad policy, and we need to be able to enforce our laws, and then allow people who want to come here legally to have a pathway to get here legally. But not to be able to just come across and assume that I'm here and I'm going to stay here, and because sometimes what looks like the grass is greener if you're those people, they end up in really, really, really horrific circumstances. And this country used to be against human trafficking. It used to be against slaving, and we fought a big war over that. And we're now allowing human traffickers to dictate our border policies, and that's got to end. And I think we have to go after the cartels in a big-time way across the border and say, we are going to defend our border. You're attacking our border. Just as Pancho Villa did in 1910. You're attacking our border, you're violating our sovereignty, and we're going to go after you militarily, and we're going to destroy you. You want to play the game, we'll play the game.
Absolutely. You know, in accordance with what you just said, I heard a report this morning by a Border Patrol superior that said it's estimated right now that 40% of the Border Patrol is not able to do their job as Border Patrol agents because they are forced to stay in-house and serve food and even change baby diapers. This is ludicrous that our Border Patrol agents have relegated themselves into being waiters and waitresses.
Yeah, it's we have a truly truly humanitarian crisis on the border, and it's a humanitarian crisis of Pelosi and Schumer's creation, but you know, we have to deal with it as a nation. And yes, when you're effectively taking your trained law enforcement and you're turning them into babysitters, you're getting the open borders people are getting exactly what they want because our borders aren't patrolled.
Absolutely. Real quick, I've got to ask you, are you familiar with who Dr. Jordan Peterson is from Canada?
Yes, I am.
I was absolutely shocked that he was dismissed from a contract at Cambridge University because he is called to be too conservative and believes that people can pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, be responsible, and achieve their goals. And the college and the university said, why, that's too radical. We can't have him here. What is going on?
What's going on is the left is enforcing their one world point of view through academia, and anybody who's a threat to them who dares to speak truth to power is being expunged. The fact is, Western civilization cannot survive if we are not allowed to have a conversation about different points of view. It ceases to be Western civilization. And that's what this is. Academia is attacking Western civilization at its core. There's a group called National Association of Scholars, which is doing a lot of great work on this, which I encourage your listeners to check out. In fact, I think they're meeting with the president today or tomorrow in the White House related to free speech on campuses and issues like that. So there's so this is a massive problem. But once again, let me just be direct. In Idaho, you have universities. Your governor, your state legislature can create whatever policies you want in those universities. They're public. You pay for them as taxpayers in Idaho. Start locally. Demand that your government make certain that Western civilization values are being honored in your state universities. And that way, people who are throughout the nation, in California and elsewhere, who are sitting there looking at university systems that have been completely corrupted, are going to will have a place where they can send their children to actually get a classical liberal education where we don't have safe spaces, where instead we're able to talk about the issues that confront our society in a meaningful way, an intellectual way, and develop critical thinking.
Amen.
That's what you can do in Idaho, and every single state that is a conservative-oriented state should do that same thing, because we've allowed the academic liberals to say, oh, there shouldn't be politics in academia, all the while they've created a politically insane zone for the left where there's absolutely no room for conservative thought. And we have to fight back. And if we're going to fight back, we're going to have to do it in states like Idaho.
Any chances that your travels might entertain the state of Idaho this next summer? Are you at all going to be close?
I haven't set up my schedule yet, but it's I am actually. I do have something. I won't be able to announce it until next week. I do have something that hopefully is going to occur. It won't be in Idaho, but It's pretty cool. And then, assuming that it happens, I'm dependent on, this is a White House thing, so I'm dependent upon them. But but I'm gonna try to get out there. I'd love to be able to get out there and visit them at the ranch.
I'll tell you what, you will get the largest steak dinner you've ever had. You've been such a real plus to this program. President of Americans for Limited Government and a friend, Richard Manning. God bless you, sir. Thank you for being on the show again this morning.
Thanks, Ed. Take care.
Take care. Thank you. I really enjoy having him on. Straight shooter about what's going on in the world and politics, Richard Manning. Thank you very, very much. Hey, I also want to say thank you to Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Oh, boy. Big spring clearance event. Why, they took a little hike out into the warehouse and said, that's got to go, that's got to go. They're having a great big clearance. That's right. Listen to the savings. I mean, like on flooring and, of course, all the mattresses. Listen, on the mattresses, Simmons Beauty Sleep, they've got a queen that was $9.99, now marked down to $3.99. Full size $8.99, now $3.49. You cannot afford to pass up this great big spring clearance event at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Where are they, Zeb? Well, I thought you'd never ask. 459 Overland in Burley. Jeff and the entire crew, and they're waiting to serve you at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Really good people. By the way, too, I want to say a great big shout out to Let's Ride. We got on our four-wheelers this weekend and took off for a little road trip. And you can, too. All you got to do is stop over to Let's Ride at 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays 9 to 4. They've got a showroom full of fun. All the four-wheelers and the side-by-sides, and they've got a huge, really big accessory department. And to keep you running, a super service department. Where? At Let's Ride. Once again, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. It's true at Let's Ride. This is where the fun is sold. Really good people. I want to start things off by introducing this next gentleman and saying how sorry I was about circumstances that I didn't have much control over here a week ago. He was scheduled to be on my program, and I had to make a little run to the hospital that day and was not available. And he was very, very nice when I called him, and I said, I'd love to have you back on this day, Monday. Dan Wass is a nationally recognized Second Amendment advocate and spokesperson. He's the author of a book called Good Gun, Bad Guy, Behind the Lies of the Anti-Gun Radical and Good Gun, Bad Guy 2, Destroying the Anti-Gun Narrative. So he knows about guns. He knows about the general public owning guns. Good morning, Dan Wass. How are you?
Hey, Zeb. How are you? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing good. Thank you.
Well, God bless you for coming back on the program. Dan, to simply start the conversation this morning, I'm just going to tell you my fears. I'm a gun owner, a legal gun owner, have been all my life. And I'm very concerned that little by little, step by step, inch by inch, the Democrats are plotting and twisting some way that if they can take more power, they're going to not only throw the Second Amendment in the river, they're going to burn the Constitution and have a rewrite. They don't want private ownership of guns. Am I wrong?
Oh, no, you're right. And this used to be, somewhat conspiracy talk. But now it's a plain reality. They don't hide it anymore, and now it's just a matter of most often, and it ends up that we have to defeat them in court, unfortunately. And so we're constantly fighting. We're always seem to be on the defense of this battle too, which is not a good thing. Which is what I try to change, because I think if we can change the narrative, the overall narrative about guns, because, see, they've done a lot. They've worked very hard at corrupting the narrative to scare people and make guns look like they're these dangerous, killing machines, and they try to create a narrative that scares the heck out of people. So what we need to do first is try to redirect people and change that into an honest gun narrative. Let people know the truth, and that's what I try to do. So once we can change the minds of the people and help them understand that guns are a good thing, then we can start putting ourselves in a little more of a proactive position rather than a defensive position.
Dan, when you say this, I want you to elaborate a little bit more, because today, let's look at the horrendous shooting that took place down in Poway, California at the Jewish Synagogue. And one absolute nut job goes in there, shoots the rabbi and shoots another lady, injured some others. Had it not been for off-duty officers, and I'm giving a synopsis here, that went after him, and they had concealed weapons, this situation could have been much, much worse. In other words, what I'm advocating is when you've got bad people that want to commit a crime, we need good people with guns to stop the perpetration of that crime.
Absolutely, and I think, unfortunately, it's going to take more of these for people on the left to realize that. But that this killing in the synagogue is a perfect example of what I'm talking about with respect to the narrative. I can give you a couple examples here. There were tweets put out by Democrats, and let me just highlight some of the terminology that they use in their tweets, because this is what helps shape the narrative for people who don't pay attention, who can't critically think this topic through. Bernie Sanders used the terms horrific shooting and hatred and bigotry. Kamala Harris used senseless gun violence and hate. Beto O'Rourke used gun violence and hatred and gun violence. Joe Biden used the term today's shooting, worship in fear, bigotry, and gun violence. So if you notice, they use these terms and these words that shape the narrative of guns. Now, what this story really is about is an anti-Semitic hatred that is cultivated on the left by radical leftists. I mean, we have people like Ilhan Omar, and they promote this hatred toward Jewish people. Mm-hmm. And so what the focus should really be on is who's creating the hatred, and who's instilling this in our young folks and our kids. This should also be a story about the four heroes who stopped it, yes, which is what you mentioned. There were people, and I can mention their names here real quick because they deserve it. Oscar Stewart was a Navy vet who chased after the killer. Rabbi Goldstein attempted to subdue the killer. Lori Gilbert Kay jumped in front of people to save them, and then an off-duty Border Patrol officer chased the killer, the off-duty officer had a handgun. So this is a story about heroes. It's a story about hatred, and it's also a story about the importance of being able to defend yourself with a firearm.
When you talk to people, Dan, in regards to the liberal left that want to do away with the Second Amendment, and they talk about the possibility of taking guns away from every American citizen, what kind of a society do they answer to when you ask them questions about, well, how do we protect ourselves? What about people in rural areas being able to get up at night and go out in the dark and maybe check on their livestock, etc.? What kind of protection will they or will they not have? What about homeowners anywhere having the right of protection? What about people traveling that are scared that if they break down, they have no protection? What kind of a society do they say they are going to get when they take away guns from all people?
Well, they don't have real answers for those questions, because what happens to them, to anti-gunners, is they really get indoctrinated with this notion, this anti-gun ideology. I talked to someone. I just did a radio show a few days ago, and the guy who was interviewing me said that he talked to someone about this, and this is a prime example, where when the leftist anti-gunners are asked, what would you do if somebody broke into your home in the middle of the night with a gun? This is what this one particular guy said. He said, well, I would have a conversation with him.
Uh-huh.
So this is where their mind is. You see, when it comes to guns, they don't live in reality. They have an idea of the way they would like it to be. They believe that they are more intelligent than everyone else, and they're morally superior than everyone else. So they believe that they would be able to sit the killer down, have a conversation, and get to the cause of why he's acting out in such a rageful way.
I can't
understand.
It's
ridiculous. It sounds funny when we talk about it. It sounds like, how could they be so stupid? But this is, a lot of them believe, they actually think like this. So it's a matter of changing the way they think.
Yeah.
Because they've been manipulated into a certain thought process on guns and violence and the whole thing. So that's the best way I can explain it. They're not living in reality.
How do those people, and I know I'm exacerbating this problem a little bit by asking more questions and beating this dead horse, but how do they stand up? Let's assume that they're like professors at various universities across the United States. How do they convince young people, honestly, in the schools and the colleges and universities, that no protection is necessary and that the police and the government will be there to protect you 24/7? How do they get that point across and have people be gullible enough to believe in it?
Well, most of the time that happens through repetition. You see, I talk about our belief structures, and our beliefs are really developed over time. Through repetition. Now, sometimes we can develop a belief through a heightened state of emotion. You know, like a car accident or something dramatic happens to you, and you have a thought. Your belief is changed in that moment because of that incident, because you're in a heightened state of emotion. Now, that happens, but most often we can condition ourselves as human beings to develop certain beliefs over time and through repetition. So what the left does to their people is they indoctrinate with an irrational fear of guns. That's the first thing. You have to create a fear of guns in the minds of the people. Now, remember, these people don't have guns. They've never shot them. They never held a gun. But they are scared to death of guns because all they see is propaganda about guns being violent and killing people. Okay, so first develop a fear, and then develop a hatred toward gun owners. This is why there's such a hatred toward NRA from the left. They constantly talk about it and propagate it, and pretty soon, and it doesn't take very long, you can take someone who's really on the fence and doesn't have a position on guns either way, and in a very short time, you can turn them into a fearful, hateful, angry anti-gunner simply by using repetition and propaganda and all the things that we see on CNN and MSNBC.
You're the expert on this, Dan, and you understand probably better than most the Second Amendment, its value, and the right to have private gun ownership. But let me ask you this. Here we are, 2019. We're a year away from the 2020 elections. And boy, if this goes the wrong way, we could look at a very liberalized source from the Oval Office all the way down. On a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you right now about America, its Constitution, and its values in the Constitution that may cease to exist?
Well, I'm always concerned because I think we need to be concerned. We always will have that enemy at our doorstep trying to break in, trying to destroy our rights. We will always have leftists trying to make us unarmed and helpless and vulnerable because they want to create a government-controlled society. I mean, it's clear. They want to live under rules and regulations, and they can't have that, and they can't achieve that unless we're on board. So it's not the bad guys that are the opposition. It's us. It's conservatives. It's traditional American people with traditional American values, we're the opposition. We're the enemy because we want freedom, but we're willing to take responsibility for our failures, and we also want to reap our own rewards. They don't want that. They want a sense of victimhood. They want government control, and they want that type of environment. So I'm always concerned because they're always going to be there. They're always going to be fighting us, and we're always going to be fighting back. I do, however, see a bit of sunlight in this upcoming election because they really don't have a lot to run on. I don't see a heck of a lot of substantial policy there on the Democratic side, and I think and I hope that people will recognize that as well and vote, Republican, vote for Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
So I'm pretty optimistic about this one, but the battle's never going to end.
Let me ask you more about the book and Good Gun, Bad Guy, Behind the Lies of the Anti-Gun Radical. Tell me a little bit about the book. Give us a synopsis and why you think the public should really get this book and understand your writings.
Well, once people understand how the anti-gunner thinks and understands the strategies that they use, and this happens all the time. People always tell me this. They say, "Oh my God, your book says exactly what I've been thinking. I've just never been able to express it or formulate it into words." So what I do is I break it all down and I help them see. I kind of unveil the anti-gunner, the anti-Second Amendment radical, and the strategies that they use to manipulate the narrative and the conversation. Once you understand that much, you start to be able to navigate through these conversations a little bit better with them, and you start to see it for what it really is. And this way, at the end, my goal is that people will be educated enough where we can help the people on the left that can be helped, and we'll be able to defeat the ones that we need to defeat.
When they finish the book and they close the last cover, what is it that you want the general public to take away, remember, and or do the most? I mean, what final thought do you want them to retain?
Well, I think that's a tough one. It's a tough question because there's a lot of things. Basically, what I was saying, I want them to understand the strategies. So the first book really helps them understand the strategies that are being used against them, and the strategies that the anti-second radicals are using against the anti-gunners. Because there's two groups over there. There's the manipulators, and then there's the people who just follow along. So this is not just a book for gun owners. It's a book for anti-gunners too, so they can see how they're being manipulated, how their thought process is being changed, and how they're being fed a bunch of lies. So the first book is that understanding. The second book goes into more about how the media gets involved and on all the strategies that are used against us with respect to the gun conversation in the media. So the two books go hand in hand, but to summarize, I think that's the best way I can summarize it.
I need to get a copy of these books. I want to read them and have you back on the program. Please tell my audience where they can be obtained.
Oh, it's easy. You can go to goodgunbadguy.net or goodgunbadguy.com. And it can also search Good Gun Bad Guy on Amazon.
Dan, I hope you'll...
I would be happy to send you copies of both books. So if we can stay on the line, if somebody can give me your address, I'd be happy to send them over.
I'll tell you what, Wheels can take care of that, my engineer. And Dan, I want to tell you how much I appreciate that. I will read the books and then have you back on for another discussion. God bless you, and thank you for being on the program.
Hey, thanks, Zeb. Same to you.
All right. Wheels, give him the information on my email address and everything if you would, and possibly my cell phone number if need be, and we'll take care of that if you would. Thank you very much. Audience, it's time for the weather. Holy smokes, it's past time for the weather. I got to get going here. And our weather this hour, as I just had a great big bunch of papers fall on the floor, is brought to you by my friends and your friends. And that's, of course, Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And they've been providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years. I mean, their reputation and their ability is absolutely second to none. They, of course, have the best of tax return preparation for you, your family, and your business, tax planning, bookkeeping services, retirement planning, all of this and so much more by the professionals that care and can serve you. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Some cooler temperatures for the beginning of the week, but we will be warming up as we get more towards the weekend. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Partly sunny skies for today. Definitely going to be cooler, slightly breezy as well. Expecting a high of 57. Tonight, low of 32. That is going to put us in a freeze warning, especially if you planted your tender vegetables. You might want to make sure that those are covered up for tomorrow. Looks like partly sunny skies, only a high of 52. Again, a freeze warning going to be in effect for tomorrow night with a low of 31. By Wednesday, mostly sunny skies, high of 57, warming up to 65 by Thursday and mid-70s as we get towards the weekend. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ring.
And thank you very much, Gina. I appreciate it. And, of course, the weather brought to you this hour by our friends with offices in Burley and Rupert, Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. The best, serving you, your family, and your business. I've got time for a couple of calls. Give me a jingle on the landline at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Come on, give me a call. We'll talk about anything and everything that you want to discuss for the remainder of this half hour. One thing I want to mention is, and I've been called all kinds of names, and that's fine. I can handle it. But there was another of the many Times News editorials that they borrow from other newspapers. This one from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Climate change evidence overwhelming. When will anti-science ideologues get it? Well, I just took down a couple of notes from this article, and I thought it was interesting that they are absolutely misrepresenting a lot of their so-called facts in this article. In this article that was written from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch on climate change and global warming, they made statements like mountains of evidence that the earth is being altered by human beings. No. Many of the world's top scientists now are disagreeing with those statements. Many of these scientists that have been a part of the climate change and global warming crowd are jumping ship, if you will, and saying, no, that is not true. And then they come out in this article and they said, more than at any time in the last 800,000 years, higher greenhouse gases. Now, just sit and think about that for a minute. 800,000 years. They're with the evolutionary theory that this planet is millions and millions of years old, and they're saying that in the last 800,000 years, higher greenhouse gases. First of all, there's no way to record that, obviously. And secondarily, they're making statements, 800,000 years, they have no clue. Then they come out and they say, the current century is the hottest ever. No, that's not true either. And then they go on and they say that scientifically there is little disagreement in climate change and global warming. And I revert back again to all the scientists that I've had on my program. And many more that I'm trying to get on my program. And many that have, like I said, left the fold of the scientists that agreed on climate change. They're saying no. Now they're starting to check all the various things and conditions and the testing apparatus, etc. And they're finding out that no, it's not nearly as bad as what we've been told. And they go on and on and on. And then they said to people like myself that we shun real scientific data. No, I don't. I welcome real scientific data. But what I do shun are op-ed writers for like the Times News or a former attorney general that thinks he's a meteorologist and climatologist. I do shun that. And I absolutely do not think in any way, shape, or form from the studies and from all the guests I've had on my program that climate change and or / global warming is any or even minuscule a threat to humanity. It's nothing more than a scare tactic by unknowledgeable people, let me say that again, by unknowledgeable people that want control. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Caller, I'll be right there. When you think about life insurance or health insurance or retirement planning or employee benefits, absolutely think about these folks, Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert, the best serving you, very dedicated and responsive to your needs. Call them, make an appointment today, 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Caller, you're on the air. Good morning.
See, the thing about climate change is that there's, even if it is changing, there's nothing that we can do as human beings that's going to change it enough to ever make a difference.
That's exactly right.
What is happening hasn't changed as much as they say, and it's never going to. And you see, whether or not it's the sun or whatever it isn't human caused. But you see, when we are young, whether or not it's paintings on the ceiling up in Bellevue and Haley and Ketchum, or believing in climate change, our children across this nation are being indoctrinated with lies.
Absolutely.
Propaganda. And see, if mom and dad don't do something about it, then the child just takes it as gospel. And you see, parenting ain't what it used to be.
Boy.
And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you hit the nail right on the head. Parenting ain't what it used to be. You know what, Randy? I got to give fair credit to this other caller that wants to get in before the time is up. Call me tomorrow. I want to talk about this further. I appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. Caller, I've got exactly 30 seconds. Go real fast, please.
Yes, sir. When does people stop thinking for themselves and trying to look up for themselves instead to rely on propaganda or whatever you want to call it that they find on social media? The news is not the news anymore. I remember it's a hell of a lot different than when I was growing up watching it at my grandparents' house.
I couldn't agree more.
Until they want to look for themselves, they're not going to change their mind how ridiculous it is. You can tell them that it's because the poodles are peeing on fire hydrants in New York, and they'd absolutely believe it because they're too lazy to figure it out on their own. So I'll let you go.
Well stated, my friend. Thank you very much. And with that, we're going to take a little break, and we're going to come back next hour with our friend Daniel Ortner with the Pacific Legal Foundation, talking about Chick-fil-A and a story you're not going to believe out of San Antonio, Texas. Don't go away, Zeb at the Ranch. I'll be back in 7. Oh, goody, goody, goody. On this morning, Monday, welcome back, hour number 3. Zeb at the Ranch, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley. Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with a great big spring tire sale. Get in there today. And don't forget, too, some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. We're going to go to our guest in just a moment, but first of all, I want to remind you about some really nice people that can handle all your electronics needs. Who am I talking about? Patterson's. Absolutely Patterson's at 421 East Main in Burley. Curtis, Lorena, the rest of the staff, all the car stereos and speakers. You're going to be outside this summer driving down the byways and highways of this country. Listen to some great music. They got all the car stereos and speakers. And maybe you'd like to have a home entertainment, a home theater system, a home entertainment center. My goodness, they've got all of this for you. And maybe you need to protect your property a little bit with a video surveillance camera. They've got all of this and more at Patterson's, 421 East Main in Burley. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6, and they're waiting to serve you at Patterson's. Don't forget, too, on Thursdays we have a segment called Cassia County School Days, and that's been sponsored for years, literally, by A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. And they are a family store, and they've got all the clothing and the baby furniture and the games, the puzzles, the toys, everything for the family at A Child's World. And they really are proud to present Cassia County School Days to you right here on Zebeth Ranch, Thursdays at 10:10. When I heard about this next story that we're going to discuss, I slammed my fist down on the table and said, this has got to stop. I mean, a fine company like Chick-fil-A, and I mean that because my wife and I frequent Chick-fil-A in Twin Falls on a frequent basis. And they have been extremely polite, extremely cordial. Their employees are trained to really have excellent customer service. But now another case of where the liberal, sleazy left is trying to throw Chick-fil-A into obscurity. And I've got attorney with the Pacific Legal Foundation, Daniel Ortner, on the program to talk about it. Good morning, Daniel. What is the world is going on with San Antonio, Texas, and Chick-fil-A?
So San Antonio, the city council voted recently in the past couple of weeks, and they voted again 2 weeks ago to ban Chick-fil-A from having a store in the San Antonio airport. They were in contract negotiations. They'd almost signed a contract for Chick-fil-A, and then the members of the council decided that they don't want Chick-fil-A there. Chick-fil-A got in the news because the owner and the foundation give money to some Christian organizations like the Salvation Army that, in addition to running soup kitchens and feeding the homeless, they support traditional Christian ideas of marriage between a man and a woman. And so because Chick-fil-A gave money to them and the owner has spoken critically of gay marriage in the past, they are now seen as bigoted and hateful and need to be excluded from the public square.
Dan, I'm going to ask you, are you speaking on a speakerphone or a handheld?
No, I'm not. Sorry. Is this better?
Yeah, a little bit better, but make sure you speak real close directly into it, please.
Okay.
I got to tell you something, Daniel. This is a subject that makes me so furious to think that the gays and the lesbians and the transgenders and all of those that are of the evil and perverted left have control over where I can go to eat or not go to eat. I absolutely stand up and salute Chick-fil-A, and I'm sick and tired of the Christian bashing, and that's what it is, bottom line, Christian bashing in our society, and this has got to stop.
There's no evidence whatsoever that Chick-fil-A has ever discriminated against a single person. They don't turn away anyone who wants to buy a chicken sandwich. They've never fired an employee for being gay. This isn't about discrimination against people for being gay. It's really about the views of the owner, that they have religious values, they have a religious point of view, they've given money to those causes. And so it's really because of the speech of the owners. And that's why the First Amendment forbids that kind of discrimination. The government is not allowed to take a favored stance on matters of politics, on matters of religion, or on matters of any other matter of public opinion. So it's really contrary to the fundamental ideal of the First Amendment to have the city saying, well, we disagree with you, you are not taking the viewpoint we want you to take, therefore we're going to exclude you from a contract or from any public benefit.
All right, now let me ask you this. Let's say that it was a Wendy's or a McDonald's or Taco Bell, whatever the case might be, and they apply. That's discriminatory if they get a license and a permit to be at the airport in San Antonio, and Chick-fil-A can't because of nothing more than religious philosophy. That is absolutely a lawsuit waiting to boil over as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's right. And I really hope that Chick-fil-A will sue. I don't know if they will. They've in the past avoided fighting on these issues. They were targeted a couple years ago by Boston and other cities, and they kind of stepped back and didn't fight at that time. So I hope they do it this time. I know the Attorney General of Texas has spoken out that he's launching an investigation into what San Antonio has done. And so hopefully either Chick-fil-A will sue or the state will take action to stop San Antonio. And then also the voters get to decide. There's a mayoral race, and the person who's been pushing for this is up for re-election, and there's a candidate opposing him who's spoken out critically and in favor of Chick-fil-A. So we'll see what the voters of San Antonio decide as well in a couple weeks.
Is this where we are today, Daniel? And again, I'm going to have to ask you to speak directly into the phone. It's not carrying like it should this morning at all. Is this where we are right now today, that certain groups of the left, with a kind of a sick, perverted viewpoint on their sexual viewpoints, they are going to dictate to us what we have to or not have to go eat? This is ridiculous.
Look, I think it's really unfortunate because the First Amendment creates an environment where people can disagree very strongly about their opinion, but come together in a dialogue and discourse. And that ultimately leads to better policy. There are difficult questions involving the balance between gay rights and religious freedom, but when you have a side that is so unwilling to listen to anything they disagree with, so sure that they are right that they're willing to exclude people from the public square, you can never reach a compromise. You can never reach a balance between these two competing interests. And so it curtails speech, and it creates an environment where we can never reach any kind of consensus whatsoever. And so it's very polarizing and ultimately very harmful, I think, to our country and to the values of the First Amendment.
Okay, Daniel, I'm afraid that we have a problem here on the phone line, and we're not getting through hearing everything the way we should, and I don't want to miss a minute of what you have to say. Unless there's another number, a solid line phone that we can call you back and get you to finish out the segment, I'm going to have to curtail because you're not coming through. Either you're moving or you're on the move or something, but it's not coming through to where I can even hear to ask you and respond to your questions and comments. Do you have another number we can call you at?
I'm trying the best I can, but this is the phone I have at the moment.
Okay. Don't move right there. Don't you dare move. Hold it right there. What in the lawsuit, if Chick-fil-A decides to go ahead and sue, which I think they should, it's absolutely ludicrous if they don't, what are you going to be asking for? What do they want to win other than the same equal treatment at the San Antonio airport?
I think this should be about equal treatment, ultimately. I think if they sued, they would argue a First Amendment claim that they're basically being discriminated against because of their speech. They're being denied a contract based on their speech, and also they're being discriminated against based on their religious beliefs. So I think what they would ask for is just an injunction to order the city to recognize, treat them equally and to contract with them on equal basis. And I think that's really what they should seek, is ultimately equal treatment. This is about equal treatment for religious viewpoints, for secular viewpoints, that everyone gets a chance to compete on equal terms and to contract with the government on equal terms.
One of the most ludicrous, and I'm not an attorney, but I did sleep at a Holiday Inn one night. I'm not an attorney, but I will say this. One of the most ludicrous, most senseless statements I've ever heard in my life is the San Antonio City Council. They had a fear that the mere sight of a Chick-fil-A would make LGBTQ individuals feel unwelcome. That's the most ludicrous thing I've heard in a long time. I want you to expand on that.
Sure. So there's an ideology that's really common now on university campuses and elsewhere that speech that I disagree with is violence on me. If I'm offended by something, it is inflicting some kind of harm to my person and my being, and that is contrary to the First Amendment. The First Amendment, the founders believed that we were resilient, that we could handle ideas we disagreed with. It handled hearing speech that we hated or thought was offensive and still live together in a civil society. This idea that it is violent to speak in a way that you disagree with is a dangerous idea that leads ultimately to restrictions on speech. It's a very Orwellian way of thinking. We see the results of that in Europe right now. In England, for instance, a journalist is under investigation for misgendering someone. Using the pronoun that the individual doesn't prefer, that is now a potentially criminal offense in parts of Europe. Because it's offensive to someone. It's denying them dignity. And that way of thinking is just deeply contrary to the First Amendment.
You know, what scares me about that, Daniel, is that how high is up? And when I say that question, I'm referring to, then I would have the right, if I'm driving down Main Street in my local hometown, I could look up at a sign and say, that business offends me, it makes me feel unwelcome. Wouldn't that open the Pandora's box for lawsuits unlimited? Anybody that feels something is offensive to them, they can go ahead and sue?
That is definitely the danger. I think it's fortunate we're very far away from that in this country because we have a very strong Supreme Court that is defending speech. I think both the liberal and the conservative appointees on the court have been very, very strong in favor of free speech. Just a few years ago, they said, the Westboro Baptist Church is entitled to hold their signs up, their hateful signs at rallies, the God hates fag signs. They're allowed to hold those up under the First Amendment, and that was, not a close decision. It was an overwhelming decision by the court to say that is protected by the First Amendment. And so that makes me optimistic that we are not there in this country. We're very far away from there, even though the actions of San Antonio are definitely a step in that direction. And I think that's why we need to speak out very strongly when we see any inroads towards that kind of restriction on speech. We need to say, no, that is not what the First Amendment is about in this country. That's not what free speech means here. And we need to teach the importance of free speech so people really understand it. Because I think we're losing a fundamental understanding of why free speech matters, why it is important to allow people to speak that we disagree with. And if we lose that, I think we're going to lose what makes America really special and really great, and what sets us apart from other Western nations with regard to free speech.
I think it's fair to say that the LGBTQ and other perverted organizations, they want everything their way. They want everything under their approval, or it's bigoted and hate-mongered. And I, for one, on this program am not going to back up. And I certainly hope the Pacific Legal Foundation never backs up. And I hope Chick-fil-A doesn't weaken and back up.
That's right. I mean, as I was saying before, I think that there needs to be there are a lot of difficult policy questions involving the balance between gay rights and religious freedom, but you can't have a policy debate when any view that you disagree with is shouted down, when you're treated as a hateful person just for having a different position. That's not grounds for dialogue and speech on the First Amendment. We need to have a marketplace of ideas where people can disagree, passionately argue, but ultimately come to some kind of a consensus on policy. That's not possible when speech is treated as violence and when there's such certainty and anyone who disagrees with you is shouted down.
Absolutely.
Good policy, and people, I think, are really sick of it.
Tell me, Daniel, and you have the last time you were on here also, how can people follow this story and others with the Pacific Legal Foundation?
Sure. Our website is pacificlegal.org. We have a link to my op-ed that I published last week in the San Antonio Daily News on the topic. We have updates about all of our other cases. We're defending property rights. We're defending free speech. We're fighting for economic liberty. We represent all our clients pro bono, and we do it and help people sue the government and win ultimately. So they can come to our website. It's pacificlegal.org. to learn all about our cases and to see the op-ed that I wrote in the San Antonio.
Let me ask you real quick, Daniel, I just thought about this. In the building up and the putting together of this case, working for Chick-fil-A, what are you finding percentage-wise? Is it 50-50, 60-40? Who's in favor of letting Chick-fil-A go into the San Antonio airport, or how many are not? I mean, what's the community split as far as percentages?
So I want to say we're not currently representing Chick-fil-A. They're not involved. There's no litigation currently going on. We're speaking out as a concerned citizen, as someone who's really upset to see what San Antonio is doing. So we're not representing Chick-fil-A currently. I'd love to if they would be interested in a lawsuit. But as I said, I don't know for sure if they are at the moment. But I would say, my sense is, there was a Chick-fil-A day at the San Antonio Capitol a few weeks ago, and there was a big turnout in favor of Chick-fil-A. I think that most people, especially in Texas, are a fan of Chick-fil-A. They like them because they have good food, they have good service. As you mentioned, they're courteous, they treat their employees well, they give back to charity, they're a good corporate citizen. And so I think people are tired of this kind of trolling through their donations and their private statements to label them as a bigot. So I think, I don't have any data to back this up, but my sense is that people are just tired of this, and they like Chick-fil-A, and they don't want every single donation and everything you do, every Christian cause you support, to be a cause for offense.
Absolutely. Well stated. With the Pacific Legal Foundation, Daniel Ortner. Daniel, come back next time, hopefully on a better phone line, and God bless you, and thank you for your time this morning.
All right. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Come on, folks, think about this. This is really a critical story of our times today. And if we don't stand up and let our voices be heard, it's the sleazy, perverted left that will win. What did San Antonio do, and what did Chick-fil-A do? Well, evidently, in the renovation of their airport, the San Antonio City Council voted to exclude Chick-fil-A because, here's the reason, they wrote it out, the restaurant chain's Christian owners have donated to organizations that champion the belief that marriage is between a man and a woman. Good for them. Good for them. And anything to do with Christian values and moral authority, it seems like society is coming down against the Christians. I meant this when I said this earlier. They're not on my program. I have no ties to them whatsoever, Chick-fil-A. But I can tell you this much, that every time my wife and I go through a fast food restaurant, we'd rather go there, even though, and I'm going to be really blunt, I'm not a world-famous chicken eater or love chicken that much, but the reason I go there is they're so polite, they're so knowledgeable, and they're very capable of giving the best in service. That commercial's paid for by me. And I'm sick and tired of letting the LGBTQ, or whatever their letters are of extended use of their liberalness and their sleaziness, condemning Chick-fil-A. I find that totally offensive, and I'm going to stand up for Chick-fil-A in every instance. Caller, good morning. You're on the line. Go ahead.
Well, another Christian organization is Hobby Lobby. And so, they're, a great organization, and their Christian ownership. When it comes to this type of thing, and when our children are misled by a guy named Pete Buttigieg, Gig, whatever, and he claims to be a Christian, and he really talks it up like he means it. But you see, the truth of the matter is when he's with his friend.
No, it's... Wait a minute. You're stating it wrong. He openly comes out and calls that other person his husband.
Well, what they do behind closed doors isn't what Charlie Rich used to sing about. So, it's just... And see, when young people hear this, they think, well, heck, maybe Christ does allow it. Maybe it is all right. Maybe you can do that.
No.
You can have it both ways.
No.
See, there's no gray with Christ and your salvation.
Randy, I'm going to ask you something, and I know that you're very biblically astute. You've studied it, etc. I keep going back. Well, irregardless of that, I'm going to make the statement, and I'm going to stand behind what I'm going to say. When last week I read a quote from a Bible parable that said about Isaiah, chapter 59, verse 15. And think about this. And it's appropriate and applicable to everything that's going on today. It is, yes, truth is gone, and anyone who renounces evil is attacked. Isn't that true, Randy?
I tell you what, man, when we want to ignore the scriptures and the truth of it all and whether or not a God exists, and there's tons of things, like I said, intelligent design, prophetic statements that come out of the Bible, and that are, we're just staring them right in the face.
You got it.
And you say, well, this was written 2,000 years, whatever. See, it's no accident. But you see, unless we know better, we're doomed to fail.
There you go. I've got it.
To know better.
I've got another call waiting, but I'm glad you were doomed to fail. Absolutely. Randy, thank you for your call again. Appreciate it. God bless you. Caller, quickly. I've only got a minute and a half.
Okay. I don't think Chick-fil-A takes money from special interest groups or taxpayer money, per se, but we need to start boycotting any business that takes money from the government, from us, basically taxpayers, and goes to Planned Parenthood. So anybody who donates to Planned Parenthood needs to be boycotted.
You know, there's a lot of things on my program, and Planned Parenthood has drawn my ire for a long time. I have no use for it. I have nothing good to say about it, nor will I on this program. And I appreciate your remarks. It's just another, what I would call, nail in the coffin of decency and morality in this country.
Exactly, and it should be called unplanned unparenthood, because they don't do anything for women's health per se, except abortion.
And none of them have had the courage or the guts, simply put, to ever contact me to arbitrate with me on this program. And I look at that as a state of cowardice.
Yeah, because we the taxpayers are paying to fund them to do things that we don't want.
Absolutely. Thank you for your call. Appreciate it. God bless you. Thank you. Nice lady.
God bless you.
Let's see, what else have I got? Oh, I've got to get this in here real quick. Don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox with home comfort systems. Oh, my goodness. Your home is your castle. And don't forget your home comfort system. And Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox offering up to $1,700 in rebates on a new home comfort system. Check it out. Call Ramsey Heating and Electric today at 678-0459 or visit them online at ramseysonline.com. Terms and conditions apply. See the dealer for details. Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Right now, we're going to send it back over to Wheels, and then we're going to come back and we're going to get into a little bit of a lighter vein. We're going to be visiting with the lovely Miss Vicky at Vicky's Country Garden. We're going to talk about growing something. Don't go away. I'll be back in about 3.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb.
Oh, thank you. And welcome back to our last half hour on a Monday. And during growing season, we have a chance to visit with a lovely lady. I tell you, I've got the most respect for her, and she's a lot of fun to be around. And I'm talking about Vicky at Vicky's Country Gardens as we now present Green Thumbs, Dirty Knees, and Vicky's Country Gardens. Good morning. How are you, Vicky?
Good morning, Zeb. It's a little cool out there.
Oh, no. You're wrong, my dear lady. It's doggone cold out there.
There you go. I tell you what, I knew it was going to do this. Yesterday afternoon, I was in here working, and the wind was howling, and it was a cold wind, and then all of a sudden it went down about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and got just as still, and I'm like, Yepers, it's going to get us.
You know something? Right there is the problem. I know that there are the climate change weirdos and kooks and crackpots. We've got to all live in caves and burn buffalo dung. Planet's going to burn up. Vicky, evidently they're not seeing the same weather that they're seeing going on right now as we speak. Not only here, but yesterday my aunt in Wisconsin was snowed in. I mean, come on, let's get real. This is turning into a climate change, all right. The last 3 or 4 years have been severely colder.
Yes, we're getting some, the seasons are just kind of changing a little bit. But it's done it over the years.
That's right.
Every so often you go through these spells where you get shorter spring and summer, and then all of a sudden it'll turn around, and all of a sudden we get these nice long fall. And it's just nature. Mother Nature has a little touch of Alzheimer's, and she's just having a little trouble getting things in order.
Well, I'll tell you what,
throw up.
Yeah, cyclical changes in the weather have been going on ever since God created the earth, and I'm sick and tired of the politicians and the liberal left and the knotheads running like Chicken Little, the sky is falling, when in essence all they want to do is be able to control people.
Oh yeah, that's just it. I mean, it's something we have. It's something we got to live with. We've got to learn. Not saying we don't have to take care of our environment, but you've got to use your head a little bit too. And we see it on a daily basis in our area. I mean, we're hot one day and cold the next. And I mean, it's just Idaho. It's been that way. I've been here dang near 50 years, and I don't see that it's a heck of a lot different than it ever used to be.
Well, let me ask you this. In accordance with what I'm hearing, there may be freeze warnings out for tonight. Now, whoa, wait a minute. What about people that have planted their gardens already? What should they do, or what should they be doing right now?
Well, it froze last night. It was 28 at my house.
Oh, my.
Ice everywhere. I mean, it did. It froze last night. They're saying tonight and tomorrow night both. We've got freeze warnings out. Basically, if you've got tomatoes and stuff out, you better have them in a wall of water or have them in a bucket or something that you can get some protection on them, because they will freeze. Most of your cold crops, your onions, your peas, and the radishes and that are coming up, they'll be fine. It isn't going to affect them at all. Cabbages, that kind of stuff, it won't affect them. They can handle that type of cold. It's not going to get that cold. It's just on your softer things. And you can always water them. If you water good at night, water them right, water them up good. That seems to kind of put a little protection on them too.
Really? Now, you use the terminology.
That's why they turn the sprinkler lines on spuds. When it starts, when spuds are up, if they know it's going to freeze, they'll crank on a solid set.
I see.
It keeps it from freezing down on them.
Okay. You use the terminology, unless I misheard you, wall of water. What did you mean by that?
Okay, well, there's these little plastic, they're plastic deals that you fill with water. They've got tubes in them, and you fill them with water, brace them down in the ground, and you put your plants inside of them. Then you can kind of close them together on the top or put a little cover over the top. They work like a little greenhouse, and it has to hit like 16 degrees. That water has to freeze solid in there before it'll ever freeze the plant.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, a lot of people use them. They get them out early. That's how they get their tomatoes and stuff going early. But definitely if the tomato is coming up out of the walls of water, which they shouldn't be now, I wouldn't think. They wouldn't be that big. But definitely close the tops of those. But get some kind of cover on whatever you've got, like tomatoes, peppers. If you've got petunias, geraniums, those kind of things, throw a blanket, throw a little bit of, a little tarp, something to just give them that little bit of break.
You know so much about this in your encyclopedia of gardening knowledge, etc. But, of all the questions that you get at this time of the year, is there one that's more prominent than others about maybe first-time gardeners and they're not sure what to do? What's the biggest question that you get asked?
How early can I plant my tomatoes?
Really?
And I tell people it's too cold. The ground's too cold. We've got frost ahead of us. We know we have. Don't plant them now. Most everyone, they want that early tomato. They want everything to come up and get early, grow it early. And they don't realize that until that ground temperature reaches a certain temperature, the stuff's not going to grow. It's just going to sit there. That's when your funguses and things like that get started on things. As they're sitting there chilled, they're cold, they're wet. Then when it warms up, that fungus just comes up on them. So it doesn't do you that much good to get things in real early unless you have, like I say, the walls of water, the really, really good protection to keep them warm and keep that wind and that cold temperature away from them.
Okay. Now, a lady had sent me a note via email here this last week, and she said basically, and I'm going to sum up, it was about a 4-paragraph letter. She was worried about certain garden plants that may be negative or poisoning to kids and or animals. Is that a real concern?
Yes, there are different plants that... They're different shrubs, things of that, like the Japanese yew, which is an evergreen, a real soft-needled evergreen, is very dangerous for elk and deer. You'll get fined if you have them planted up in the Haley area and catch them.
Oh.
It has killed a lot of elk and deer.
Okay.
So you don't want anything like that. You've got different, there's some shrubs that have berries on them that can be quite poisonous. And as we all know, kids are always going to try something. You know, they see an orange berry, they're going to try it. But there are some things that are poisonous. Some of they're really a pretty plant, but the spurge plant has a milky stem, and it's very caustic. And kids love to take it and snap it off, and then make polka dots on their arms with it.
Ooh.
Milk, and it makes like little tiny cigarette burns on their arms.
Oh.
It's caustic enough to where it does burn the flesh.
Oh my goodness, I didn't know that.
Not a deep burn. Basically, wash it off, put a little Neosporin on it, in a day or so it's gone.
Okay.
But it's just things like that. And there are some things that are kind of poisonous to animals, to dogs and that. If the dogs get in and eat different things.
Okay.
But not too many things in the actual garden part of things are really too toxic to people.
You know, Vicki, last week, and it really surprised me after we were talking about, and I'll use the phrase stand-up gardens. You know, for those that maybe are like me, they got a bad set of knees and they can't get down on all four and do the gardening, etc. And we were talking about stand-up gardening. I couldn't believe the amount of people that responded and said, have Vicki talk more about those stand-up gardens. We want to hear more so we can have one.
Well, they're really quite easy to build. You can buy kits. Everybody has them. I used to carry them, but then everybody would come in and say, well, I can build that, so I kind of let go of it. But a lot of your Home Depots and that have them. But you can use just like 2x10, like redwood, that, or just some good 2x10s. You can make them as big as you want. If you're using wood, you can take and put them up on legs where you get them up as high as you want them. Just the main trick on them is, depending on what you want to grow, getting them deep enough to grow the plants that need the deeper soils, and also get good drainage in them. You want to make sure you have a soil mix that's going to drain well and not just stay sloppy wet, and not be. You want to make sure you've got weed mat in to hold your soil in, but let the water through and let it drain out, because if you get them too wet, that just they just don't work for a lot of crops.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There's different soil mixes that people use. You can use a potting soil, an actual potting soil, or you can make your own mixes with just some good sandy topsoil, some compost, and put in a little bit of soil aid, something like that, a little perlite. Open it up, loosen it up, and and then you just have to fertilize a little bit more in a raised garden because of the fact that it does drip through. Your fertilizers wash through a little bit.
One of the ladies that sent me a note is confined to a motorized wheelchair, and she said she wasn't even hardly aware that this was available to her, and she said she's so excited she can't wait to get started.
Oh, yeah, it's really good for people like that, or that are on walkers and things like that. It gets them out, gets them their exercise, and yet they can still do their gardening. And you just have to keep your fertilization up a little bit more on them. And like I say, your watering and stuff, just make sure your soil has got good drainage to it. And it's, you just kind of have, it's easy. The weeds don't get in there as bad. I mean, it's really a good way to go.
Now, Vicki, last week, and I'm running short on time here, but last week we were talking about gardening seeds, and you said to make sure that you get good quality seed. A question came in from last week's program, and the lady said, well, what about if I have good seed this year? Can I use it next year, meaning this year? Is leftover seed okay to use?
If it has been taken care of and not been in where the temperatures have been hot and cold and that type of thing, out of the sun. I mean, if it's been kept like in a cool, dark place, most all your garden seed will pretty much go for a year. Be pretty good germination for a year. Sometimes on some of your things you might want to plant just a little bit heavier, just in case your germination is a little bit off. But as a rule, as long as the seed hasn't been exposed to a lot of sunlight, a lot of hot temperatures, and then cold, and then hot and cold, and moisture and that type of thing, you should be fine with it for the first year.
Okay. Now it's time for Vicky's gardening tip of the week, and let me have it. What have you got cooking?
All right, so right now we've got these cool temperatures, the cold days, the cool nights. Do not get carried away with your watering. You can cause a lot of damage if you overwater gardens, flower beds, new trees, berries, all that type of thing. Do not get carried away with, having to just really drown, keeping them wet. Lawns, nothing needs a lot of water right now because it's not utilized and it's cool enough that everything is staying pretty good. So just be careful with your watering on these cooler nights and that type of thing. And also, Zeb, you're going to have to swing by the store now because I unveiled my surprise over the weekend.
Uh-oh. You unveiled?
Drive by, and you have to come and see me and see what I've done.
Well, I am going to do that. I'm trying to think when I'm coming down that way this week, but I can tell you this much. You have piqued my interest. Can you give me somewhat of a Sherlock Holmes clue?
You're going to really appreciate it.
It's a dollar bill multiplied by thousands on a tree.
Nope, it's better than that even. So
really?
You will be one. You will be one of the ones that will really appreciate this.
Okay, I'm going to make a concentrated effort to get over there. Deanne's listening in the other room, and then we'll talk about that on next Monday's program. Now you really got me excited. I can't wait to get there.
Well, everybody's been pretty shocked at what I've done, so you're just going to have to come and see it. Because, like I said, you're going to be one that's going to really appreciate it.
Vicky, I think that's wrong terminology. Everybody's been pretty shocked at what you've done. Anybody that knows you is always in a complete state of shock.
This is true. I just keep them going.
Listen, Mother's Day's around the corner. What have you got for Mom?
We've got all the hanging baskets. Our roses are looking awesome. Instead of buying a bouquet of roses, buy a rose bush that she can enjoy all year long. So come in and see us. We're going to have specials going in store and that on Friday and Saturday before Mother's Day. But baskets are going pretty fast, so if you're wanting one, you better get in and get your name on one.
Okay, now, Mother's Day, and another thing I'd like to have you talk about just briefly is a lot of people haven't got a clue what so-and-so would like for the garden or whatever. What about gift certificates?
Gift certificates are one of the neatest things for Grandma, and you'd be surprised how much the grandparents enjoy their gift certificates to come in and buy their stuff. Moms, they love to come in and pick out the colors they want, the statuary. We've got a lot of metal art that everybody's just really into right now. So they can come in and pick out what they want and have a good time doing it. So gift certificates are always an excellent purchase for gifts for Mother's Day.
Why don't you tell everybody the hours that you're open and exactly where they can find you?
Okay, we are open now from 9 to 6, Monday through Friday. Saturdays, 9 to 5, and we will be opening on Sunday, I think this coming Sunday in May. And it'll be we'll be open 11 to 4 is what our hours are on Sundays. And we're on the Burley-Paul Highway. You can't miss us. As you're headed to Paul, we're just as big as we can be over here. Just you can't miss us. You'll find us, that's for sure.
Well, I guarantee you one thing. Now you've got my interest piqued. I can't wait to get over there. I'll get over there, I promise, in the next couple of days. Vicky at Vicky's Country Gardens, and we have the program called Green Thumbs, Dirty Knees, and Vicky's Country Garden. Wonderful, wonderful lady. I wish you the best. And by the way, my apologies to you for not being here last Monday, but I'm so glad we had a chance to visit Thursday and then again today.
That's fine. I'm just glad that you're all right. I was a little concerned there when they said you weren't doing well. So you got to keep things going because, everybody needs your opinion on things.
Sometimes they listen to it and then they're not so happy that they heard it.
Well, that's just life.
Okay. Vicky, God bless you. Thanks for being on the program this morning.
All right, Zeb. Thanks. Thanks.
Thank you. I love that lady, Vicky at Vicky's Country Gardens. She is a very knowledgeable lady and a real sweetheart. Get over there and you'll see what I mean. Just love the visit about the gardening. I'm not a gardener. I never have been. I've been very unsuccessful as a gardener, but she makes it sound easy and it becomes easy. And she's a big help, too. Vicky at Vicky's Country Gardens. I got to get over and see what that surprise is. Now she's really got me interested. We're going to have a weather forecast, and then I welcome your phone calls. So please give me a jingle in just a moment. But right now, we're going to talk about my friend Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew at, of course, Scarrow's Meats over in Jerome. Oh, my goodness, all the delicious meats. And you can go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com, check it all out, and call them on the phone before you drive over, 324-7657. All the delicious tri-tips and marinated pork ribs and all their special meat packages. Oh, and the different kinds of buckboard bacon. Oh, man, it is great. You're going to love it. Scarrow's Meats in Jerome. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Some cooler temperatures for the beginning of the week, but we will be warming up as we get more towards the weekend. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Partly sunny skies for today. Definitely going to be cooler, slightly breezy as well. Expecting a high of 57. Tonight, low of 32. That is going to put us in a freeze warning, especially if you planted your tender vegetables. You might want to make sure that those are covered up for tomorrow. Looks like partly sunny skies, only a high of 52. Again, a freeze warning going to be in effect for tomorrow night with a low of 31. By Wednesday, mostly sunny skies, high of 57, warming up to 65 by Thursday and mid-70s as we get towards the weekend. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina, and brought to you by Don Scarrow and the crew at Scarrow's Meats. Don was on our program last week on Thursday. Absolutely great people serving you at 331 North Road, Jerome. The telephone number again, 324, is almost choked to death, 324-7657. Delicious meats from Scarrow's Meats. Don't forget they are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time at Scarrow's Meats. You know, I got something that's stuck in my craw here today, and I just find this very, very offensive and totally irresponsible of the University of Virginia. They, of course, won the NCAA men's basketball tournament just a few weeks back. The Virginia Cavaliers were invited to attend a ceremony at the White House with President Donald Trump, and they refused. They refused. And I just think this is a terrible disrespect, not just for Donald Trump, but the presidency and the Oval Office of this United States. Their coach, Tony Bennett, came out with what I think was a really lame excuse. He said, with several players either pursuing pro opportunities or moving on from the University of Virginia, it would be difficult, if not impossible, to get everyone back together. Well, out of respect for the office of the presidency, whomever could be available, they should go. This sets a terrible, terrible landscape for the future of disrespect to the presidency. When Obama was in office, there were a lot of people that did not like him at all, but they went to the ceremony even though their politics was far, far removed from his. They respected the office. They respected the offer to be saluted, if you will, at the White House. And my respect level for the University of Virginia and head coach Tony Bennett this morning is at an all-time low. The Clemson Tigers won the National NCAA Football Championship. They went to the White House. The Baylor Lady Bears won the NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament. They have accepted an invitation, and they're going. But the University of Virginia basketball team said, nope, we haven't got time. Too hard to get it put together. That's totally disrespectful And I think it's another slap in the face to not only this administration, but to the office in general of the presidency. Shame on them. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. We've got to clean up this country somehow with a total lack of respect and civility. And I don't see it happening. The left is just going further. They're like a rubber band. They're stretching it further and further and further to the left to see how much they can get and take. It's got to stop. Let's not forget about a great big spring tire sale that's going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations with this great big spring tire sale. Oh, it's a good one. You better believe it. You can save a lot of money on the tires you need for your car, your pickup, your SUV, horse trailer, boat trailer, whatever. You get in there today. All the tread designs, all the sizes are there waiting for you at all 7 locations. Now, along with that, the very best in brake service, front-end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, all of this, but also the best in service. Nobody does it better than they do. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, Daniel on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. The best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. What have we got coming up tomorrow? We've got Spencer Brown, very interesting young man. Let me get my book over here. I'm not sure about all these people coming on tomorrow. We've got some topics, a lot of political topics, some on Medicare, Medicaid. We've got all kinds of things, including Dr. History. Boy, the popularity of Dr. History every Tuesday at 10:06. Dr. Ken Turner will be here, and we always look forward to that. Now, the change that we've had from tomorrow, and I want you to be aware of this, is we had announced that Senator Mike Crapo was going to be on the program tomorrow at 9:06. Their office in D.C. called me and said, please, can we make that change to next week on Monday at 9:30? So we are going to hold his feet to the fire. I said that's the only time available, and I want it done next week. And so we're looking forward to next week, Monday, with United States Senator Mike Crapo. A lot of things to ask him and talk to him about. Right now, we're going to say have a great day. God bless you and your family. And we always wrap up the program by saying the way things were are the way things ought to be, and the world needs more cowboys. And let's all make America great again. If that offended somebody, good. Let's all work together. I'll be back here tomorrow morning at 8:06 with my old buddy Wheels over in the driver's seat. Until then, have a good day. God bless.